Welcome. In this video, Chapter 2 of Arknights will be summarized. Throughout the video, there will be spoilers for the story of Arknights. If you don't want to be spoiled, please go and play the game. Chapter 2 takes place 4 days after the Chernobog rescue mission, 4 kilometers from the outskirts of Lungmen. The Doctor wakes up to the PTRS, telling the Doctor they've been asleep for 9,999 hours, and that their presence is urgently needed at the Operations Command Room, as well as Dr. Kal'tsit recommending to keep their windows open as a way to get fresh air and to spend time on deck to get some vitamin D. The Doctor heads off to the landship's bridge. Amia and Doberman greet the Doctor when they arrive at the bridge, asking how they're feeling as the Doctor looked like they were still in pain and couldn't move around well yesterday. Amia tells the Doctor that they have missions to take care of, with Doberman explaining that despite the heavy losses sustained in Chernobog, Rhodes Island gained a lot of information about Reunion and got the Doctor out alive. Based on negotiations yesterday, Lungmen, the closest mobile city, offered a cooperation pact and agreed to exchange information with them, as Rhodes Island believes that Reunion will strike Lungmen next. Lungmen has granted Rhodes Island permission to temporarily set up camp near the city, as well as compensating a portion of Rhodes Island's losses and expenditures during the operation, in exchange for Rhodes Island defending the city's outskirts. Amia attempts to explain why they're doing it, but Doberman cuts her off and explains it instead. Last night, they discovered another wave of Chernobog survivors making their way towards Lungmen, and they are expected to reach it this afternoon. While defending the outskirts of District 5, they may encounter Reunion members mixed into the survivor groups, meaning Rhodes Island will have to change their tactics to combat this. Doberman sends the Doctor and Amia on their way to complete their combat preparations so that they may drill and set out for Lungmen. The Doctor and Amia arrive at the District 5 inspection and quarantine zone. They overhear on a loudspeaker that, due to the catastrophe's interference, all air traffic in Lungmen has been stopped, all entrances to District 5 will close in 2 hours, and that any unregistered infected should be reported to a nearby peace officer, with the infected being handled in accordance to the Emergency Handling Act. A blue-haired and horned woman is waiting for Amia and the Doctor, scolding them for being 14 minutes late, as they were meant to meet at 10 p.m. Amia apologizes to the woman, named Chen, with Chen asking who the Doctor is. Amia explains that they are the consultant Kal'tsit informed her about. Before Chen can get Amia and the Doctor to follow her, a Lungmen Guard Department agent rushes to her side, telling Chen that one of the infected isn't, before being cut up by Chen, calling the first squad to be on standby and the snipers to get into position. Chen walks over to an LGD agent and an infected making a scene and asks the agent what's going on. The agent explains that some of the infected are refusing to be taken in. Chen tells the agents to detain them all, disperse the crowd, open the gates in 30 minutes after the review process, and push the quarantine inspection line forward 40 meters. Chen then turns to the Doctor and Amia and tells them that the rest of Rhodes Island will stay at the checkpoint and assist with security. The Doctor and Amia follow Chen to a tall building and into Lungmen's government center. Chen informs the Doctor and Amia that, although she believes Rhodes Island is undoubtedly capable, after the Chernobog incident there's been a massive surge of refugees in Lungmen, and that the infected should already know the consequences of entering Lungmen. The trio enters another room and sees a Catwoman in a lab coat talking to a dragon in fancy clothing. The Catwoman, who Amia identifies as Kal'tsit, is telling the dragon, Chief Wei, that Lungmen is the next Chernobog. Chen asks the Doctor and Amia to wait here. Amia says to the Doctor that Chen is hard to talk to and that Kal'tsit is handling negotiations. Chen allows the Doctor and Amia to enter the room, with Kal'tsit acknowledging their presence. Wei tells the Doctor and Amia to take a seat as Cal was explaining the situation to him. Cal explains that currently the Lungmen Info Network captures a lot of info about Reunion, which is good, but alone it's not enough because Lungmen lacks key info. Cal believes that the LGD knows very well that the simple quarantine is not going to hold back Reunion, as Reunion will not obediently go through inspections or wait for the authorities to take the initiative, which is why, without Rhodes Island's assistance, Lungmen will suffer heavy losses against Reunion, should Lungmen be decided to use the same strategies against the infected. Chen interrupts and says that the LGD understands Lungmen's defenses better than Rhodes Island does, making preparations to deal with possible infiltration from Reunion, and that the LGD has no obligation to provide Rhodes Island with confidential info regarding their ops. Wei asks Cal to continue. Cal continues on saying, while it's true that Lungmen has been successful in dealing with the unarmed infected, they haven't dealt with the large-scale organized rioting before, resulting in unnecessary losses. From Rhodes Island's experience, only infected are capable of countering the infected. Wei asks if Rhodes Island has special expertise in countering reunion. Cal admits that they have experience, but she wouldn't call it expertise. Wei was under the impression that Rhodes Island was involved in the Chernobog incident and managed to obtain info about reunion. Cal says that the information is not up for exchange currently. Wei believes that if information cannot be provided, then Lungmen has no basis for trusting their capabilities. Cal emphasizes her words, as the only reason Rhodes Island was able to obtain the information was because they were strong enough to get it. Chen concurs with Wei, believing that Lungmen cannot trust another group of infected. Cal offers to surrender herself in accordance with the local laws so that she may sigh from her jail while watching reunion burn down the city, if Chen believes that punishing the infected is more important than security. Wei gets Chen to calm down because they're his guests and then remembers something. To Wei's understanding, Rhodes Island is also assisting in suppressing the nearby infected, asking Chen to assess their combat abilities. After concluding her assessment, Chen believes that there's little reason to doubt their strength, but given their identities, the LGD is more capable for the job. Wei counters by saying that the LGD is more sufficient for fighting crime and preventing infiltrations, and that Rhodes Island may be able to bring more to the table. However, since Rhodes Island requested an item from Lungmen that Lungmen is unwilling to trade based on what Rhodes Island has offered, with the defense cooperation being far from equal value, hoping that Cal and Amiya would understand. Cal tries to argue with Wei, saying that he doesn't know much about reunion and that a temporary defense won't be enough, basing her claim upon data collected while fighting reunion. Reunion will take Lungmen in 2 weeks unless something is done immediately. Chen doesn't believe the claims that Cal makes. Cal and Amiya elaborate that Chernobog fell in one night due to being caught in a catastrophe, being the real reason why it fell so quickly, as well as fighting the reunion leader, Tallulah. Chen reacts to the name. Amiya believes that, in order to expand, Reunion will have to deal with their resource shortages, with Lungmen being the next logical step in their expansion. Though they may be able to fend them off, their attacks will not cease. Wei commends Amiya on her speech, but the asking price that Rhodes Island wants is still too high. But there are two conditions to make sure that Lungmen is compensated. First, Rhodes Island will help the LGD suppress reunion, including identifying threats within Lungmen and the fallout from Chernobog, with the second condition being revealed after satisfying the first. Amiya, Cal, Wei, and Chen all agree on the conditions discussed, with the addition of a clause that any interpretation of clauses must be agreed upon by both parties. Wei warns Amiya that infected aren't allowed to move freely in the city, so they may cause a panic. Cal tells Amiya she did a great job, especially with how Wei acted. Cal also welcomes the doctor back. Infected children run and hide from Lungmen rioters, while one named Misha gives a protective charm to protect the children who are hiding. The scene goes back to Amiya and the doctor. Amiya tells the doctor that, according to someone named XUCI's data, their mission target should be somewhere around where they are, along with having Penguin Logistics help them as the terrain is difficult. Amiya overhears the scuffle and rushes over to see where it's coming from, seeing rioters and a child, with the rioter asking where someone ran off to, and the child calling for Misha. Amiya approaches the rioters and scares them off using her arts, telling them to never bully the defenseless again. The children thank Amiya and run off. Franca appears and asks Amiya what's going on. Amiya tells her that she just saw unregistered infected from Ursus to gather the nearby operators, and that the deeper they head into the slums, the more volatile things will be. Lixarm, who is nearby, gets a communication from Chen and wants them to immediately search for Misha, an Ursus girl, short white hair, 145 centimeters tall. After Chen hangs up, Lixarm receives another message from several defenders nearby. They met some people who are openly hostile towards Rhodes Island operators. Amiya has the defenders fall back to them, and the scout team look for Misha. After the battle, Misha runs into Amiya while she was trying to hide. Amiya introduces herself, Franca, and Lixarm that they're part of Rhodes Island Pharmaceuticals and they'd like to talk to Misha for a bit. Misha acts defensively as she believes that they're going to lock her up. Franca laughs at her, saying that they wouldn't have given her the chance to resist if they wanted to. Amiya eventually convinces Misha to come with her after showing that she's infected as well and that they're taking care of the infected children. Amiya reports to Chen that they found Misha, with Chen setting up a meeting point to escort Misha to. Franka and Lixgarm argue amongst themselves about how LGD is not cooperating much with Rhodes Island, and what route to take to reach the meeting point. Amiya decides to call in a favor from Penguin Logistics. Exusiai appears and asks how everything's going, with Franka not being pleased by her presence. Amiya asks Exu for a relatively safe route for them to take, with Exu suggesting to take a route that has less enemies than others, and that Reunion has already infiltrated into Lungmen. While they are talking, Reunion surrounded them. Amiya and the rest get ready for battle. After fending off Reunion, the group tries to shake off the rest of Reunion soldiers. Exu comes up with a route to lose the enemies, but needs to verify if it's usable or not, and runs off. Misha asks where the group is taking her, with Amiya telling her that they're bringing Misha to the LGD. Misha suspects Rhodes Island of betraying her, with Amiya explaining that their original plan was to ask Lungmen to entrust some of their infected to them, but after hearing Rhodes Island's report, Lungmen suddenly transferred Misha to them. Misha still believes she's being captured, with Amiya explaining again that it's not their intentions, but rather to keep Misha safe. Another Penguin Logistics employee, Texas, is waiting around for Rhodes Island. She spots some Reunion soldiers inside an abandoned building, and decides to head over towards them. She calls out to one of the soldiers and tells all of them to come at her as she's short on time. Texas rejoins the Rhodes Island group and informs Amiya that there are more Reunion soldiers coming. Lixarm says that they're caught in a poor position as Reunion is after what Rhodes Island has, Misha, due to Misha carrying secrets that only Lungmen and Reunion know. Texas leads the group as Exu has found an escape route. Before they're able to leave, Reunion soldiers catch up, with Amiya spotting a leader. The leader is identified as Skull Shatterer, with his casters targeting Misha. Skull Shatterer is pleased that he's found Misha, with Misha not recognizing who they are, and another battle begins. Misha is stunned to find out Reunion is also infected, and questions why the infected fight against the infected. A Reunion member asks if Skull Shatterer let the Rhodes Island members go. Skull Shatterer responds by saying that they have nowhere to run, and that they've finally found her. The group arrives at where the markings on the map are, but the route leads up. Exu shouts from the top of the building to tell the group to come upstairs. Franka is worried that Reunion may surround them, but that's only if they stay around to find out. Franka welds a gate to stop Reunion from getting in, and the group heads upstairs. When at the top, Texas says to the doctor that they don't seem to like climbing stairs. Texas kicks the door to the rooftop open, and Exu shouts to the group to jump from rooftop to rooftop. Suddenly, Reunion members with jetpacks show up and block their way. The group readies up for battle so that they can continue their escape. Exu joins back up with the group after the battle. Misha begins to get a little dizzy, with Amiya asking how long she's been in Lungmen, which is about a week. Amiya asks if Misha was infected before, but Misha doesn't know. However, the past few days, things have been growing on her leg. Misha faints and Amiya calls for a medic. Misha is experiencing an acute symptom of oropathy, but it's only been a week, much shorter than usual for symptoms. Amiya explains to the group that Misha's condition is very dangerous, and if nothing is done about it quickly, the condition will become life-threatening. After this ends, they need to bring Misha back to Rhodes Island. Exu asks if she's going to explode soon, and is smacked by Texas. Further on, the group witnesses Reunion harassing locals in the slums, threatening to call in the LGD. Rhodes Island steps in to stop the Reunion members, and thus begins a fight. The infected thank the Rhodes Island members, and are told to hurry and leave, but all they had were destroyed by the Reunion members. The Reunion infiltration didn't happen spontaneously, as it's likely that many infected in Lungmen chose to follow the path of Reunion, willing to accept what Reunion offers even if it's nothing more than false promises and illusions, unlike Rhodes Island. Misha asks if Reunion is still chasing them, and that she believes the promises that Amiya makes. The group leaves towards the exit where the LGD is waiting for them, which is nearby. Rhodes Island finally gets to the meeting spot. Amiya tells Franka and Lixarm to watch their surroundings, while she takes Misha to Chen. Chen critiques the lateness of Amiya as the LGD doesn't want any more security risks. Amiya tells Chen that they were attacked multiple times by Reunion on their way to the meeting point, and to take Misha and leave ASAP as it's not safe. One of the LGD asks Misha to come with them, and Amiya asks them to take care of Misha as she's not doing well physically, and to allow her to live on Rhodes Island after this. Chen says she'll submit an application away and Lungman will transfer her to Rhodes Island if there's no problems. Misha asks Amiya to protect the kids in the slums. Amiya promises that she will. Franka asks if their mission is over now, which it isn't, as Lixarm tells Amiya that Reunion is planning on attacking the district that they're staying at. Reunion attacks again as the LGD officers are leaving. The LGD escort leaves safely, and Lixarm asks why Reunion and Lungman are after Misha. Amiya's best guess is that either she, or something she knows, is enough to determine Lungman's continued safety. X2 asks if the Penguin Logistics members need to escort them back to Rhodes Island, but are turned down by Amiya. The Penguin Logistics members leave, and Amiya announces to Rhodes Island operators that they need to stay prepared and on alert as they're relocating their ops to within the high-rises. Elsewhere, Crownslayer tells Tallulah that preparations are complete and that there's a strategic purpose for attacking Lungman, as if they take control, Reunion will have a huge advantage, but it will come at a huge risk. Tallulah says that she didn't come back here just to return everything that's been taken from the infected, but to also make him pay, with Tallulah asking herself if she agrees that things are going to get interesting. Later, Rhodes Island fights again with Reunion soldiers, looking for an exit or way to halt the endless stream of reinforcements. Lixarm spots some casters hiding near the exit to the east, with Franka spotting some approach from the central passage as well as the high rises to the sides. She then spots the Reunion commander they ran into earlier. Skullshatterer asks Rhodes Island if they handed her over to Lungman. Amiya asks what it has to do with anything. Skullshatterer doesn't like her response and gets their soldiers to attack. Rhodes Island manages to clear the last wave of pursuers, with them losing sight of the Reunion commander. Amiya suggests that they should fall back quickly and begin planning an escape route, the stealthier the better. Reunion soldiers suddenly ambush Rhodes Island, with Skullshatterer commanding them to not give them any room to breathe. In the LGD escort, Misha asks Chen to take care of the infected kids in the slums. Chen says they're not considered citizens of Lungman, but they do belong to Lungman, so she'll try her best to take care of them while not promising anything. Chen then asks if Misha knows why she's being looked for, with Misha believing that it's about her parents. Chen confirms this, as Misha's father was the most famous scientist in Chernobog, as well as the most important political figures. Somewhere near the escort, W spots them. She tells the LGD escort to not take it personally, but she has a very interesting plot in her hands, and to make things entertaining, she needs everyone to participate. The Rhodes Island group are struggling to fight so many enemies at once, with Lixarm and Franka covering each other. Franka calls over to Amiya to see how the situation is going on for her, with Amiya saying that the Reunion commander has just shown up in front of her and Lixarm. Skullshatterer taunts Rhodes Island, asking them where else they plan on hiding, how they cannot escape them, and the traitors that they are will be ground into dust. Amiya, Franka, and Lixarm now have to fight Skullshatterer, as they can't run any further. With dead ends all around, Skullshatterer further taunts them, saying that, despite Amiya being infected, she still decides to assist Lungman in the slaughter of the infected. Amiya retorts by saying that Reunion is the one who started all of the pain, hatred, and violence back in Chernobog. After the battle, Skullshatterer seems injured. One of the Reunion members tells Skullshatterer that W has finished on her end, and that she successfully retrieved the target. Skullshatterer tells the members to send a signal to Tallulah, with a member launching a flare to the sky. Reunion begins to retreat, with Skullshatterer vowing that next time they meet, it will be Rhodes Island's execution. Amiya is confused by the sudden retreat, and feels that something isn't right. The doctor says that Rhodes Island wasn't their objective in the first place. Amiya puts it all together and realizes that they need to reach Chen immediately. Over where Chen is, she asks where the Special Operations Division is, as reinforcements should have arrived by now. An LGD agent tells her that they've all been stalled by Reunion, and they were only facing one enemy. Chen thinks of who they may be facing. Thank you for watching. Please follow me on Twitter for updates on future videos, and please check out my other Arknights and Azure Lane content as well.